The morning sun cast long shadows across the military training facility as Sarah Martinez adjusted the heavy camera equipment on her shoulder. At 24, she had spent 3 years documenting military exercises for the Department of Defense's Public Affairs Division. Her job was simple: capture footage of training operations, interview soldiers, and help create promotional materials that would showcase the military's capabilities to the public. Sarah had never intended to be anywhere near actual combat. She was a communications specialist, trained in photography, videography, and media relations. Her weapon qualification consisted of basic pistol training that all personnel received, nothing more. She carried a sidearm as regulation required, but it had never left its holster during her entire career except for mandatory range time. The exercise taking place at Fort Carson was routine, a large-scale training operation designed to test the coordination between different military units. Sarah's assignment was to document the command center operations, showing how modern military leadership coordinated complex missions. She would film briefings, capture footage of officers studying maps and tactical displays, and conduct interviews with key personnel about decision-making processes. General Patricia Hawkins commanded the exercise from the Central Observation Post. At 52, she was one of the few female generals in the Army, known for her sharp tactical mind and no-nonsense approach to leadership. Sarah had filmed several interviews with her over the past 2 days, finding her to be direct but fair, someone who had clearly earned her position through competence rather than politics. "Martinez, you getting good footage up there?" called Sergeant First Class David Wong for the communication station below the observation deck, where Sarah had positioned her camera. "Yes, Sergeant. The angles from here show the whole command layout perfectly," Sarah replied, adjusting her zoom lens to capture the general studying topographical maps with her staff. The exercise scenario involved multiple units conducting a coordinated assault on a simulated enemy position located in the mountainous terrain surrounding the base. Real soldiers would advance on targets marked by electronic sensors, while opposing forces would attempt to repel their attack. Everything was carefully choreographed and monitored for safety, with range safety officers positioned throughout the area to ensure no accidents occurred. Sarah focused her camera on General Hawkins as she briefed her staff on the morning's objectives. The general's voice was clear and confident as she outlined how the various units would coordinate their movements. Tank units would provide fire support, while infantry advanced undercover. Artillery would engage predetermined targets to simulate battlefield conditions. Air support would conduct mock bombing runs on enemy positions. "Remember, this exercise tests our ability to coordinate complex operations under realistic conditions," General Hawkins told her staff. "Every decision we make here reflects our readiness for actual combat situations. I want clean execution and clear communication between all units." Sarah documented the briefing, making sure to capture not just the general's words, but the focused attention of the staff officers around her. These images would help show the public how military leadership functioned during complex operations. The footage would demonstrate the professionalism and skill required to coordinate modern military forces. As the briefing concluded, various officers dispersed to their stations. Sarah followed General Hawkins to the main observation window that looked out over the training area. From this elevated position, they could see most of the terrain where the exercise would unfold. Hills covered in scrub brush stretched into the distance, dotted with concrete structures that represented enemy positions. First time documenting a full-scale exercise like this, General Hawkins asked as Sarah positioned her camera to capture the view from the observation deck. "Yes, ma'am. I've filmed smaller training operations, but nothing this comprehensive," Sarah replied, checking her camera settings to ensure proper exposure for the outdoor lighting conditions. "You'll see some impressive coordination today. These units have been training together for months to prepare for this exercise. Watch how the different elements support each other. Tanks providing cover for infantry, artillery coordinating with air support to avoid friendly fire incidents. Modern warfare requires this kind of precise coordination." Sarah nodded, adjusting her microphone to capture the general's commentary. This kind of expert analysis would provide valuable context for the final documentary. General Hawkins had a gift for explaining complex military concepts in terms that civilian audiences could understand. The exercise began with artillery fire in the distance. Sarah filmed the staff officers tracking the simulated bombardment on their tactical displays, their faces illuminated by the glow of computer screens showing unit positions and target areas. Radio chatter filled the command center as various unit commanders reported their status and received new orders. Alpha Company reporting movement to phase line green crackled over the radio. Roger, Alpha Company. Bravo Company, you are clear to advance on your assigned objectives, responded Major Stephen Clark, the operations officer coordinating the ground forces. Sarah moved between different positions in the command center, capturing the constant flow of information and decisions that kept the exercise running smoothly. She filmed communications specialists monitoring radio frequencies, intelligence officers tracking simulated enemy movements, and logistics personnel ensuring that all units had the supplies they needed to continue operations. General Hawkins remained at the observation window, studying the terrain through binoculars while receiving regular updates from her staff. Her calm demeanor provided a stark contrast to the controlled chaos of the command center around her. Sarah made sure to capture this sense of leadership under pressure, knowing it would be an important element in the final documentary. Artillery fire mission complete. All rounds on target, reported the fire support coordinator. Excellent. Phase 2 is authorized to commence. General Hawkins responded into her radio handset. Tank units began their advance across the training area. Sarah zoomed her camera lens to capture their movement across the distant hills, the dust clouds kicked up by their tracks visible even from the command center's elevated position. The coordination required to move so many vehicles safely across rough terrain while maintaining tactical formations was impressive to witness. As the morning progressed, the exercise unfolded exactly as planned. Units advanced according to schedule, simulated combat engagements occurred at predetermined locations, and the command staff demonstrated their ability to adapt to changing tactical situations. Sarah's camera captured hour after hour of professional military competence in action. During a brief lull in operations, General Hawkins approached Sarah's position near the observation window. Getting the footage you need for your documentary? Yes, ma'am. This has been incredibly educational. I had no idea how many moving parts are involved in coordinating an operation like this, Sarah replied, lowering her camera for a moment. Most people don't. They see the end result, successful missions, quick victories, but they don't understand the hours of planning and coordination that make those outcomes possible. Every radio call, every map reference, every supply request has to be perfect or the entire operation can fall apart. Sarah raised her camera again to film the general's explanation. This kind of insight would help civilian audiences appreciate the complexity of modern military operations and the skill required of military personnel at every level. The exercise was scheduled to continue through the afternoon, with different phases testing various aspects of military coordination. Sarah planned to document each phase, building a comprehensive record of how military units work together to achieve common objectives. Her footage would show the American public that their military was well-trained, professionally led, and capable of handling complex challenges. As noon approached, the command center buzzed with activity as staff officers prepared for the next phase of operations. Sarah positioned herself to capture the general receiving briefings from various section chiefs, each reporting on their area of responsibility. The level of detail and precision involved in coordinating so many different elements was remarkable to witness. All units report ready for Phase 3, announced Major Clark. General Hawkins studied the tactical display showing unit positions across the training area. Everything appeared to be proceeding according to plan, with all forces positioned correctly for the next phase of the exercise. Sarah focused her camera on the general's face, capturing her concentration as she reviewed the tactical situation one final time before authorizing continuation of the exercise. Phase 3 is authorized. All units execute on schedule, General Hawkins ordered. Sarah continued filming as the command center staff coordinated the complex movements required for the exercise's next phase. Radio chatter increased as unit commanders received their orders and began maneuvering their forces according to the predetermined plan. Everything was proceeding exactly as expected in what had become a textbook example of military coordination and professionalism. The afternoon sun streamed through the observation windows as Sarah documented hour after hour of flawless military execution. Her assignment was nearly complete, and she had captured extensive footage of military leadership in action. The documentary she would help create would showcase the competence and professionalism of American military forces to audiences who rarely had the opportunity to witness such operations firsthand. But as the afternoon wore on, Sarah had no way of knowing that the routine exercise she was documenting was about to take an unexpected turn that would change everything about her role that day. The carefully planned operation was about to encounter the kind of unpredictable situation that would test not just the military units participating in the exercise, but everyone present at the command center, including one communications specialist who thought her job was simply to watch and record what happened around her. The first sign of trouble came at 1,347 hours when Corporal Jennifer Hayes, monitoring the communications desk, suddenly straightened in her chair. Sarah was filming General Hawkins reviewing tactical reports when she noticed the corporal frantically adjusting her radio equipment and pressing her headset closer to her ear. "General, I'm receiving an emergency transmission from civilian authorities," Corporal Hayes announced, her voice cutting through the routine chatter of the command center. General Hawkins immediately moved to the communications station, with Sarah instinctively following to document what appeared to be an unplanned development in the exercise. She assumed this might be a surprise element added by the training coordinators to test the command staff's ability to handle unexpected situations. "What's the nature of the emergency?" General Hawkins asked, accepting a headset from Corporal Hayes. "Ma'am, Colorado State Police are reporting an active hostage situation at Mountain View Elementary School, approximately 12 miles northeast of our current position. The school has been evacuated except for one classroom where an armed individual is holding children and their teacher." Sarah continued filming, though she began to realize this was no part of the training exercise. The tension in General Hawkins' voice and the sudden shift in the command center's atmosphere indicated they were dealing with a real emergency situation. "Are local law enforcement requesting military assistance?" General Hawkins inquired while studying a map that Major Clark quickly spread on the table before her. "Yes, ma'am. State police report they lack sufficient tactical resources to safely resolve the situation. The individual appears to have military-style weapons and has made threats against the children. Local SWAT teams are 40 minutes out due to a multi-vehicle accident blocking the main highway." General Hawkins studied the map, showing the school's location relative to their current position. Sarah could see the wheels turning in the general's mind as she calculated distances, available resources, and response times. This was exactly the kind of leadership decision-making Sarah had been documenting all day, except now it involved real lives rather than training objectives. "What's our current tactical posture?" General Hawkins asked Major Clark. "Ma'am, we have Bravo Company positioned approximately 6 miles from the school location. They're conducting movement exercises, but could be redirected within 15 minutes. We also have helicopter support conducting training flights in that sector." Sarah lowered her camera for a moment, uncertain whether she should continue documenting what was clearly becoming a real-world emergency response. General Hawkins noticed her hesitation and addressed her directly. "Martinez, this is still a military operation. Continue your documentation. This footage may be important for post-incident analysis." Sarah raised her camera again, understanding that her role had suddenly shifted from documenting routine training to recording how military forces responded to unexpected civilian emergencies. The professional competence she had been filming all day was about to be tested under real-world conditions. "Give me a direct line to the incident commander at the school," General Hawkins ordered. and begin coordination with Bravo Company for possible redeployment. I want options on the table in 5 minutes. The command center transformed as staff officers shifted from managing training exercises to coordinating emergency response. Sarah documented the rapid change in tempo and focus as personnel who had been monitoring simulated combat suddenly found themselves planning a real-world tactical operation. Corporal Hayes established communication with the state police incident commander, while Major Clark coordinated with Bravo Company's commanding officer about repositioning his unit. Intelligence officers began gathering information about the school's layout and the nature of the threat, using the same analytical skills they had been applying to training scenarios. This is Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chun, incident commander on scene, came the voice over the radio. We have one adult male, approximately 40 years old, armed with what appears to be military-style assault weapons. He's barricaded in a first-grade classroom with 18 children and their teacher. General Hawkins took the handset personally. Colonel Chun, this is General Hawkins at Fort Carson. We have military assets in your vicinity conducting training operations. What can we do to assist? General, we need tactical support immediately. Our negotiator is trying to establish communication with the subject, but he's becoming increasingly agitated. We have reason to believe he may be a military veteran experiencing psychological distress. Sarah continued filming as General Hawkins absorbed this information. The general's expression remained calm and focused, but Sarah could see the weight of responsibility in her eyes. These weren't simulated casualties or training objectives. Real children's lives hung in the balance. Colonel Chun, I'm authorizing the deployment of military assets to assist with this situation. We have a company-sized unit that can be on scene in 20 minutes with tactical capabilities that may be useful. General, that would be extremely helpful. Time is critical here. General Hawkins turned to Major Clark. Redirect Bravo Company immediately. Full tactical deployment with rescue capabilities. And get our helicopter assets repositioned to provide aerial reconnaissance and potential medical evacuation support. Sarah filmed the rapid coordination as the entire command structure shifted focus. Officers who had been managing training exercises now found themselves coordinating a real emergency response that would test every skill they had developed during their careers. The professionalism and competence she had been documenting all day was about to face its ultimate test. Ma'am, Bravo Company reports they can be on scene in 18 minutes, reported the operations officer monitoring unit movements. Helicopter assets are repositioning for reconnaissance and medical support, added the aviation coordinator. General Hawkins studied the tactical display, now showing both the training exercise units and the emergency response deployment. Her ability to mentally switch between training coordination and emergency response demonstrated exactly the kind of military leadership Sarah had been trying to capture in her documentary. I want continuous updates from a scene and get our medical personnel prepared for possible casualty evacuation. We don't know how this situation will develop, General Hawkins ordered. Sarah continued documenting the unfolding response, amazed at how quickly the military apparatus had shifted from training mode to emergency operations. The same communications networks, command structures, and tactical procedures they had been practicing all day were now being applied to save lives in a real crisis. As Bravo Company raced toward the school, General Hawkins maintained constant communication with both the civilian incident commander and her own forces. Sarah captured the general's calm leadership as she coordinated between civilian authorities and military units, ensuring that military capabilities were properly integrated with ongoing civilian emergency response efforts. General, this is Captain Rodriguez with Bravo Company. We're approaching the school perimeter now, came the radio transmission from the deploying unit. Roger, Captain. Coordinate with Colonel Chun on scene. You are in support of civilian authority. Take no action without proper authorization. Sarah documented this crucial moment when military training transitioned from exercise to real-world application. The same tactical procedures, communications protocols, and command relationships they had been practicing were now being used to respond to an actual emergency where lives hung in the balance. The radio crackled with updates from the scene as Bravo Company arrived and began coordinating with civilian law enforcement. Sarah filmed General Hawkins as she monitored multiple radio frequencies, tracking both the emergency response and the ongoing training exercise that still required supervision. "General, we have eyes on the school building," reported Captain Rodriguez. "Civilian authorities have established a perimeter, and we're positioning tactical teams to support their operations." "Understood, Captain. Remember, we are in support. Follow the incident commander's directions exactly." Sarah realized she was witnessing something remarkable. The same military competence and coordination she had been documenting and training was now being applied to protect innocent lives. General Hawkins was simultaneously managing a complex training exercise involving hundreds of personnel while coordinating emergency support for a hostage crisis. The tension in the command center was palpable as everyone waited for updates from the school. Sarah continued filming, knowing that this footage would provide an unprecedented look at how military forces responded when called upon to assist civilian authorities in emergency situations. "General, the subject has agreed to speak with a negotiator," reported Colonel Chun from the scene. "We're making progress, but the situation remains extremely volatile." "Copy that, Colonel. My forces remain ready to assist as needed." Sarah lowered her camera momentarily, struck by the weight of responsibility she was witnessing. General Hawkins was making decisions that could affect the lives of 18 children and their teacher, while simultaneously ensuring that hundreds of soldiers participating in the training exercise continued their operation safely. The afternoon sun was beginning to cast longer shadows across the command center as the dual operations continued. Sarah resumed filming, documenting how military leadership functioned under pressure when real lives hung in the balance. This was military professionalism at its highest level. The same skills and procedures used in training now applied to protect innocent civilians. As updates continued to flow from both the emergency scene and the training areas, Sarah realized she was capturing something extraordinary. The footage she was recording would show how military forces could seamlessly transition from training to emergency response, demonstrating their value not just as a defensive force, but as a resource for protecting civilian communities when called upon. General Hawkins remained focused and calm throughout the developing crisis, her leadership providing steady guidance to forces engaged in both training and emergency response. Sarah's camera captured every moment of this demonstration of military competence under pressure, knowing that what she was documenting would provide valuable insights into military capabilities and leadership. But as the situation continued to develop, Sarah had no idea that her role as an observer was about to change dramatically. The emergency at the school would soon test not just the military units responding to assist, but everyone present at the command center, including one communications specialist whose only weapon training consisted of basic pistol qualification she had never expected to use. At 1,523 hours, everything changed in an instant. Sarah was filming General Hawkins coordinating between the ongoing training exercise and the emergency response when Corporal Hayes suddenly stood up from her communication station, her face pale with alarm. "General, we have a serious problem," Corporal Hayes announced, her voice tight with tension. "I'm receiving reports of armed individuals approaching our perimeter from multiple directions." General Hawkins immediately moved to the communication station while Sarah instinctively followed, her camera capturing the sudden shift in the command center's atmosphere. The routine coordination she had been documenting was about to become something entirely different. "What's the nature of the threat?" General Hawkins demanded, studying the tactical display that Major Clark was rapidly updating with new information. "Ma'am, perimeter security reports at least 6 armed individuals moving through the terrain surrounding our position. They appear to be coordinating their approach to avoid our security checkpoints," reported Sergeant Wong from the surveillance station. Sarah continued filming as General Hawkins absorbed this information. The general's expression remained calm, but Sarah could see her mind working rapidly to assess the new threat while continuing to monitor the hostage situation at the school. Do we have any intelligence about who these individuals might be or their intentions? General Hawkins asked while studying aerial reconnaissance images that were being transmitted to the command center. Negative, ma'am. They're moving with tactical discipline and appear to have military-style equipment. Intelligence suggests they may be connected to the individual at the school, possibly part of a coordinated attack designed to target military assets while our forces are deployed responding to the civilian emergency. The implications of this assessment hit everyone in the command center simultaneously. The hostage situation at the school might have been a diversion designed to draw military forces away from their base, leaving the command structure vulnerable to attack. Status on our security forces? General Hawkins inquired while maintaining her calm leadership demeanor. Ma'am, most of our security personnel were reassigned to support the training exercise. We have minimal forces available for base defense, Major Clark reported, his voice betraying concern about their tactical situation. Sarah lowered her camera for a moment, realizing she was witnessing the development of a serious tactical crisis. The same command center that had been safely managing training exercises was now potentially under threat from hostile forces. Give me a direct line to base security immediately, and recall available units from the exercise to establish defensive positions, General Hawkins ordered while studying maps showing potential approach routes to the command center. Ma'am, the majority of our combat units are either deployed at the school or engaged in training exercises at distant locations. Response time for significant reinforcement is estimated at 30 to 45 minutes, reported the operations officer. General Hawkins studied the tactical situation rapidly developing around them. Sarah resumed filming as she watched the general make the kind of leadership decisions under pressure that she had been documenting all day, except now those decisions would affect the safety of everyone in the command center. What's our current defensive capability here at the command center? General Hawkins asked. Ma'am, we have 8 security personnel available for immediate deployment, plus the command staff. Most personnel here are administrative and support staff with basic combat training only, Major Clark responded. Sarah realized that this assessment included her. As a communications specialist, she had basic military training, but had never been in a combat situation. Her weapon qualification was minimal, and she had never expected to use her sidearm for anything other than mandatory range practice. Establish defensive positions around the command center using available personnel. I want every entrance covered and observation posts established to monitor approaching threats, General Hawkins ordered. The command center erupted into controlled activity as staff officers shifted from managing training exercises to coordinating base defense. Sarah continued documenting the rapid transformation, amazed at how quickly military personnel could adapt from administrative duties to tactical operations. General, base security reports the hostile forces are approximately 20 minutes from our perimeter, announced Corporal Hayes from her monitoring station. Roger. Continue tracking their movement and coordinate with our aerial assets to maintain surveillance, General Hawkins responded while reviewing defensive positions on the tactical display. Sarah filmed as personnel throughout the command center began preparing for potential combat. Officers who had been managing paperwork and coordinating training exercises were now checking weapons and establishing defensive positions. The professionalism and competence she had been documenting was about to face its ultimate test. Martinez, you need to establish a defensive position like everyone else, General Hawkins told her directly. Find cover where you can continue documenting, but also be prepared to defend this facility if necessary. Sarah felt a chill of fear as the reality of the situation hit her. She was no longer just an observer documenting military operations. She was potentially about to become part of those operations. Her role as a communications specialist had never prepared her for actual combat. Ma'am, I'm not qualified for combat operations. "I'm just a photographer," Sarah protested, though she continued filming even as she spoke. "Today you're whatever this situation requires you to be. Every person here has basic military training and may need to use it. Find a position where you can observe the northern approach route and be prepared to engage targets if they threaten this facility." Major Clark approached Sarah with additional ammunition for her sidearm and quickly reviewed basic defensive procedures with her. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the rapid transition from documenting military operations to potentially participating in them, but she understood that everyone's safety might depend on each person doing their part. Sarah positioned herself near a window overlooking the northern approach to the command center, her camera in one hand and her service pistol in the other. She had never imagined that her assignment to document military training would place her in a position where she might need to use weapons in actual combat. "All stations, this is General Hawkins. We have confirmed hostile forces approaching our position with apparent intent to attack this facility. Every person here is a soldier first, regardless of their specialty. Defend your positions and protect this command center." Sarah heard the general's words over the communications system while maintaining her position at the window. She could see movement in the tree line approximately 800 meters from the building, though she couldn't tell whether it represented friendly forces or potential threats. "Movement confirmed on the northern approach route," Sarah reported over her radio, surprised by how steady her voice sounded despite her fear. "Roger. Maintain observation and report any definitive hostile activity," came the response from Major Clark, who was coordinating defensive operations throughout the building. Sarah continued filming with one hand while keeping her weapon ready with the other. She was documenting what might be the transformation of a routine training exercise into actual combat operations, though she hoped the approaching forces would prove to be friendly units returning from the exercise. The tension in the command center continued to build as reports came in from various observation posts. Multiple groups of armed individuals were approaching from different directions, suggesting a coordinated attack rather than random criminal activity. General, intelligence assessment indicates this is a deliberate assault on military command infrastructure, possibly timed to coincide with the school incident to maximize our vulnerability, reported the intelligence officer. General Hawkins absorbed this information while continuing to coordinate defensive preparations. Sarah's camera captured the general's calm leadership under extreme pressure as she made decisions that would affect not just military operations, but the lives of everyone in the building. "All units, prepare for possible assault on this facility. Rules of engagement are authorized for defense of military installation and personnel," General Hawkins announced over the facility's communication system. Sarah felt her heart rate increase as she realized the seriousness of their situation. The routine military exercise she had been documenting had evolved into a potential battle for survival, and her role had transformed from observer to participant. "Confirmed movement, northern approach. Approximately 400 meters, Sarah reported as she observed figures moving through the vegetation toward their building. "Can you identify weapons or hostile intent?" came the response from the Tactical Coordination Center. Sarah adjusted her camera zoom lens to get a better view of the approaching figures while maintaining her weapon-ready position. What she saw through her lens made her understand that the situation had become critically dangerous for everyone in the command center. "I can confirm military-style weapons and tactical movement consistent with assault formation," Sarah reported, her training as a photographer helping her provide detailed intelligence about what she was observing. The command center fell silent, except for the sound of personnel checking weapons and adjusting defensive positions. Sarah continued documenting while preparing for what might be her first actual combat experience, knowing that the footage she was recording might be the only record of what was about to unfold at the facility. The attack began at 1,547 hours with the sharp crack of rifle fire echoing across the training facility. Sarah instinctively ducked below her observation window while maintaining her grip on both her camera and weapon. The professional military environment she had been documenting all day had suddenly become a battlefield. "Contact north side, multiple shooters," reported Sergeant Wong from his defensive position near the main entrance. Copy that. All stations, weapons free. Engage hostile targets. General Hawkins responded over the facility communication system. Sarah raised her camera above the windowsill to capture footage of the developing assault while staying low enough to avoid incoming fire. Through her lens, she could see muzzle flashes from positions in the tree line where hostile forces had established firing positions targeting the command center. Sarah, can you see how many shooters you have on the northern approach? Major Clark's voice came through her radio earpiece. I count at least 3 distinct muzzle flash positions, spread across approximately 100 meters of tree line. Sarah responded, her photography training helping her provide accurate tactical intelligence, even under combat conditions. More gunfire erupted from multiple directions as the coordinated assault developed. Sarah continued filming while listening to radio traffic from defensive positions throughout the building. Personnel who had been managing training exercises minutes earlier were now engaged in actual combat operations. Eastern Approach reports 4 to 5 shooters advancing under covering fire, came a report from another observation post. Southern Perimeter has movement, but no confirmed contact yet, added another defender. General Hawkins coordinated the defense from the command center while maintaining communication with units still deployed at the school and throughout the training area. Sarah's camera captured the general's calm leadership as she managed both the immediate threat to their facility and ongoing operations across the region. Base security, what's your estimated response time for reinforcement? General Hawkins inquired while studying tactical displays showing the developing assault. Ma'am, first response units are still 15 minutes out. The majority of our combat forces remain committed to the school situation and exercise recovery, came the discouraging response. Sarah realized that the defenders currently in the building represented the primary force available to repel the attack. Her role had definitely shifted from observer to active participant in defending the facility, regardless of her comfort level with combat operations. A burst of automatic weapons fire shattered windows along the building's northern wall, sending glass fragments across the room where Sarah maintained her position. She kept filming while pressing herself closer to the wall for protection from the incoming rounds. Northern Observation Post, do you have the ability to return effective fire? Major Clark asked over the radio. Sarah looked at her service pistol, then at the distance to the hostile firing positions. Her basic weapons training had not prepared her for engaging targets at several hundred meters with a handgun. She felt completely inadequate for the tactical situation developing around her. Negative on effective return fire capability. Targets are beyond effective range of available weapons, Sarah reported honestly while continuing to document the assault through her camera lens. Understood. Continue observation and report target movement. Help is coming, Major Clark responded. The sound of gunfire continued from multiple directions as the assault intensified. Sarah could hear personnel throughout the building returning fire from defensive positions, though she wasn't sure how effective their response could be against what appeared to be well-equipped and tactically proficient attackers. General, intelligence suggests the attackers are trying to neutralize our command capability while our forces are dispersed responding to the school incident, reported the intelligence officer from his position near the communications equipment. Copy that assessment. Continue coordinating with responding units and maintain defensive positions, General Hawkins responded while personally checking defensive preparations throughout the command center. Sarah filmed General Hawkins moving between positions, encouraging personnel and coordinating defensive efforts. The general's leadership under combat conditions demonstrated exactly the kind of military competence Sarah had been documenting, though she had never expected to witness it under actual fire. Another volley of gunfire struck the building, this time from a different angle, suggesting the attackers were maneuvering to improve their tactical position. Sarah adjusted her camera position to capture the shifting dynamics of the assault while maintaining her observation responsibilities. Movement on the eastern approach, approximately 300 meters, reported Corporal Hayes from her position monitoring that sector. Copy eastern movement. All stations, be prepared for coordinated assault from multiple directions, General Hawkins announced. Sarah continued documenting the defense, while feeling increasingly helpless about her ability to contribute meaningfully to the tactical situation. Her communications background provided some value for coordinating intelligence, but she felt unprepared for actual combat operations. The radio crackled with an update from the approaching response team. Command, this is Alpha Response Team. We're 10 minutes from your position. Roger, Alpha Team. Be advised we have hostile forces in positions north, east, and possibly south of the facility. Approach with caution, General Hawkins responded. Sarah filmed the general coordinating both the immediate defense and the response team's approach while under fire. The demonstration of military leadership under extreme pressure was remarkable, though she wished she was documenting it under less dangerous circumstances. Suddenly, the pattern of incoming fire shifted significantly. Instead of scattered shots from multiple positions, the attackers appeared to be concentrating their fire on specific sections of the building, suggesting they were preparing for a more focused assault. All stations prepare for possible breach attempt. They're shifting tactics to concentrate firepower, General Hawkins announced after analyzing the changing attack pattern. Sarah adjusted her position to better observe the likely approach routes while maintaining her documentation efforts. Her camera was capturing unprecedented footage of military personnel defending their facility under actual combat conditions, though she hoped the situation would be resolved before anyone was seriously injured. The sound of breaking glass came from somewhere else in the building, followed by shouting and increased gunfire from that direction. Sarah realized the attackers might have achieved some level of penetration into the facility, making the situation much more dangerous for everyone inside. Breach reported on the western entrance. Came an urgent radio transmission. Copy breach report. All personnel, prepare for close-quarters combat. General Hawkins responded while moving toward the area of reported penetration. Sarah felt her heart rate increase dramatically as she realized the attackers were inside the building with them. Her role as an observer was about to become much more active whether she felt prepared for it or not. The sound of gunfire inside the building was much different from the distant shots they had been hearing from outside positions. Sarah could hear personnel shouting tactical commands and the distinctive sound of combat operations occurring in the corridors around the command center. Sarah, maintain your observation position, but be prepared to defend your sector if they reach your location, Major Clark instructed over the radio. Sarah gripped her pistol more firmly while continuing to film with her other hand. She had never imagined that her assignment to document military training would place her in a situation where she might need to engage hostile forces in actual combat. The battle for control of the command center was about to reach its critical phase, and Sarah Martinez, communications specialist and photographer, was about to discover capabilities she never knew she possessed under the extreme pressure of life and death combat situations. The sound of combat in the building's corridors grew closer as Sarah maintained her position at the northern observation window. Her camera continued recording while her other hand gripped her service pistol with increasing tension. The routine documentation assignment had become a fight for survival, and she was about to discover what she was truly capable of under extreme pressure. All stations, hostile forces have penetrated the building. Defend your positions and protect sensitive equipment, General Hawkins announced over the communication system. Sarah could hear footsteps and voices in the corridor outside the command center, though she couldn't determine whether they belonged to friendly defenders or hostile attackers. Her training had never prepared her for this level of uncertainty in a combat environment. Suddenly, the command center door burst open and two armed figures in tactical gear entered, their weapons raised and ready to engage targets. Sarah's mind processed the situation in slow motion. These were not friendly forces, and they represented an immediate threat to everyone in the room. Without thinking, Sarah raised her pistol and fired 3 quick shots at the nearest attacker. Her basic weapons training took over as muscle memory guided her actions despite her fear and inexperience with actual combat situations. The shots struck center mass, and the attacker collapsed immediately. The second attacker turned towards Sarah's position, but General Hawkins engaged him with her sidearm before he could bring his weapon to bear. The engagement lasted only seconds, but it felt like an eternity to Sarah as she realized she had just killed someone in defense of the facility. "Outstanding shooting, Martinez," General Hawkins called out while moving to secure the weapons from the neutralized attackers. Sarah stared at her smoking pistol in disbelief. She had never fired a weapon in anger before today, yet her shots had been accurate and effective under the most stressful conditions imaginable. Her hands shook as the adrenaline began to affect her system. "I've never killed anyone before," Sarah said quietly while lowering her weapon. "You defended this facility and everyone in it. That's exactly what we needed you to do," General Hawkins responded while checking the corridor for additional threats. The radio crackled with updates from throughout the building as defenders engaged hostile forces that had penetrated the facility. Sarah's successful engagement had eliminated the immediate threat to the command center, but fighting continued in other areas of the building. "Command, this is Western Corridor. We have 2 hostiles down, but at least 3 more moving toward the communications center," came an urgent transmission. "Copy Western Corridor. Hold your positions and continue engaging hostile forces," General Hawkins responded while coordinating defensive efforts throughout the facility. Sarah resumed filming despite her shaking hands, documenting the aftermath of the engagement while trying to process what she had just experienced. Her camera captured the professionalism of military personnel under combat conditions, including her own unexpected performance. "Alpha Response Team, this is Command. Be advised we have hostile forces inside the building. Exercise extreme caution on approach," General Hawkins radioed to the incoming reinforcements. "Copy, Command. We're establishing a perimeter and preparing to clear the building from outside in," came the response from the approaching military units. The sound of gunfire continued from other parts of the building, but it was becoming less frequent and more sporadic. Sarah hoped this indicated that the defenders were gaining control of the situation with help from the responding units. "Sarah, maintain overwatch on that corridor while I coordinate with the response team," General Hawkins instructed while moving to the communication station. Sarah positioned herself to observe the corridor leading to the command center while keeping her weapon ready. She found it difficult to believe that less than an hour ago her biggest concern had been getting good camera angles to document routine training exercises. "General, this is Alpha Team Leader. We've secured the perimeter and are beginning systematic clearance of the building," came the radio update from the response force. "Roger, Alpha Team. Be advised we have friendly forces throughout the building in defensive positions. Coordination is critical to avoid friendly fire incidents," General Hawkins responded. Sarah continued documenting the coordination between the defenders inside the building and the response team conducting clearance operations. Her footage was capturing an unprecedented view of military forces responding to an unexpected assault on their facility. The radio traffic began to shift from urgent combat reports to more routine clearance confirmations as the response team systematically secured different areas of the building. Sarah hoped this indicated that the immediate threat was being eliminated. "Command, this is Alpha Team. We show all hostile forces neutralized. Beginning final sweep to confirm building security," came the welcome update. "Outstanding work, Alpha Team. Continue sweep and report when facility is secure," General Hawkins responded while beginning to assess the situation throughout the command center. Sarah lowered her weapon for the first time since the engagement, though she kept it ready in case additional threats materialized. Her camera continued recording as personnel throughout the facility began transitioning from combat operations back to normal duties. "Martinez, I need you to document the aftermath for our after-action report," General Hawkins instructed while reviewing tactical displays showing the conclusion of combat operations. Sarah moved through the command center with her camera, documenting the evidence of combat and the professional manner in which military personnel had responded to an unexpected assault. Her footage would provide valuable insights into how well-trained forces could adapt from routine duties to combat operations. 20 minutes later, Alpha Team Leader entered the command center to report directly to General Hawkins. Sarah filmed their conversation as he briefed the general on the tactical situation and confirmed that all threats had been eliminated. "General, we count 8 hostile forces neutralized throughout the building. No friendly casualties reported, though we have some minor injuries from broken glass and debris," the team leader reported. "Understood. What's the assessment of the coordinated attack on both the school and this facility?" General Hawkins inquired. "Ma'am, intelligence suggests this was a planned assault designed to target military command infrastructure while our forces were dispersed responding to the civilian emergency. The timing was deliberate and well-coordinated." Sarah continued filming as General Hawkins received briefings on both the successful defense of the facility and the resolution of the hostage situation at the school. Military forces had successfully handled both emergencies despite the challenges created by the coordinated attack. "What's the status of the school situation?" General Hawkins asked. "Ma'am, the hostage situation was resolved successfully with no casualties among the children or school staff. The coordination between civilian authorities and our forces was exemplary." Sarah felt relief knowing that the children at the school were safe and that military forces had successfully protected both civilian lives and military assets despite facing coordinated threats. An hour later, as the facility returned to normal operations, General Hawkins approached Sarah while she was reviewing footage from the day's events. Sarah was still processing her transition from observer to active participant in combat operations. "Martinez, that was exceptional shooting under pressure. Have you considered advanced tactical training?" General Hawkins asked. "Ma'am, I never thought I had the capability for combat operations. I'm just a communications specialist," Sarah replied while reviewing the footage of her engagement. "Today you proved you're much more than that. Your accurate fire under extreme stress helped save this facility and everyone in it. That's not communications work. That's warrior capability." Sarah looked at the footage showing her successful engagement of hostile forces, hardly believing that the person in the video was actually her. The routine assignment to document military training had revealed capabilities she never knew she possessed. "General, I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of responsibility," Sarah said honestly. "Nobody ever feels ready until they prove themselves under pressure. You've already done that. The question is what you want to do with that capability now that you know you have it." Sarah continued reviewing her footage from the day, seeing not just the documentation of military training and emergency response, but evidence of her own transformation from observer to participant under the most challenging circumstances imaginable. Later that evening, as Sarah prepared her final report on the day's events, she reflected on how dramatically her understanding of herself and her capabilities had changed. She had begun the day as a communications specialist assigned to document routine training exercises. She was ending it as someone who had successfully defended a military facility under actual combat conditions. The footage she had captured would provide unprecedented documentation of how military forces responded to unexpected threats, demonstrating the professionalism and adaptability that made them effective in both training and combat situations. But more importantly, it had shown her that she was capable of much more than she had ever imagined. The next morning, General Hawkins found Sarah reviewing her equipment before departing the facility. "So, Martinez, what are you going to do with what you learned about yourself yesterday?" Sarah looked at her camera, then at the service pistol she had used so effectively under pressure. "I think I need to expand my definition of what a communication specialist can be, General. Maybe my job is bigger than I thought." General Hawkins smiled. "That's exactly the right answer. The military needs people who can adapt and perform under pressure, regardless of their specialty. You proved you have that capability." As Sarah packed her equipment and prepared to leave Fort Carson, she knew that her experience documenting what she thought would be routine training had fundamentally changed her understanding of her own potential. The question she faced now was how to build on the capabilities she had discovered about herself under the most extreme circumstances imaginable. The general's final words to her echoed in her mind as she departed. "Martinez, You were meant to watch, not fight. But when the situation demanded it, you fought brilliantly. That's what makes a true soldier, the ability to exceed expectations when it matters most.